Hello, everybody. It's funny, I didn't make a video for a while. I go in these short spurts. I think this is why I'm unsuccessful in life, because I do things in these short spurts. Make a video, make 3 videos, make 10, even, I mean, not 10, but make 4 or 5 videos in the course of 2 weeks. Don't make a video for 4 months. Certainly, it doesn't help your viewership when they have no effing clue when your videos are coming out. But anyway, it is what it is, right? And that's kind of what this video is about, really. Some people hate that phrase. It is what it is. It's a good phrase. What's the problem? It is what it is, It's like, it sounds like you're saying nothing, but implied in that is that, I think implied in that is that reality is, never what you hoped it would be. It is what it is. It's kind of like, well, you see what we got here, and it's pretty far from what we were imagining. You don't actually say that in that line, so it sounds like you're saying something basic. But I think people know this, but some people complain about that phrase, and those people just don't get it. It would seem, or they're too dumb to get it. Anyway, sorry to reuse and overuse the line, but this video is, I don't know what this video is. It's, it's a warning, I guess, to some extent. None of these videos are super exciting, and I think that's part of the point here. I'm sorry to keep pushing us down the path of hopelessness and depression. At this point, it's become funny to me. I don't know why. It shouldn't be funny, but I think I just want to show you that, I'm kind of living like, if I serve any purpose, it's kind of documenting what a lot of guys like me have gone through. There's a lot of us out there. I'd say it's becoming more and more the norm as gender relations have deteriorated as time has gone on. I think I was like the first of these types, the canary in the coal mine types, for the rise of feminism. And I'm not opposed to the rise of feminism. I don't think it's the feminism that's the problem so much as, the sexual revolution. I don't know how they got feminists on board. This is one of the greatest tricks that men ever pulled. I'm sorry, that wealthy men ever pulled. I should make that distinction. It's an important distinction. One of the greatest tricks that wealthy men ever pulled was to convince women that they were being empowered by sleeping around, mostly with guys who were, had a lot of options. I mean, I could go into this, I don't want to be a red pill guy. I don't, I know some of my viewers probably are red pill guys, because on seething beneath my persona is some amount of annoyance with women for not finding me particularly attractive. And it's not even that they never did, I guess, but I have a personality that makes me, repulsive to a lot of women. I don't think I'm as bad as these women think I am. I really don't. I think on some level I'm less. I respect women a lot more than most of these red pill types. I could tell you, every now and again I'll delve into the video area of the red pill manosphere shit. Been watching some Orion Taraban videos. Dr. Taraban. It's clear that he was like me. I think he was kind of an angry nerd who wasn't getting the ladies when he was younger, and he turned it around by becoming a social media influencer. And obviously now he's got optionality and all that kind of thing, all the kind of things he'll talk about. It's also clear that his experience as a nerd has stained him for life, and he has a very cynical outlook on relationships and what love really is. I'm not sure. Maybe eventually Orion will meet the right woman and realize that not all women are selfish materialists. C words. I'm not going to say that. I know there are good women out there. There really are. I think there's good types of men and women out there, but we're just, I don't want to say we're, because I don't know if I'm really that one of them, those good men, but they're the minority. Most people are just dicks, It's the mass amount. It's the lowest. When they say lowest common denominator, that sort of assumes that most people are kind of, deep down, we're kind of douchebaggy. We have high expectations and maybe unrealistic a lot of the time, and we're shallow. I'm shallow. I'm willing to admit it. Um, I wish I could find, if I could find average looking women attractive, then I would have plenty of options. I mean, I don't even think people think. I don't need. People accuse me of needing a model. I just want a girl who's I find attractive. Maybe my sense of what's attractive has been skewed by watching too much, that illicit material. But is it my fault? Maybe it is. I don't know. Should I blame myself for that? Should I blame my upbringing or something? I don't know. Anyway, I'm kind of going off track here. That's not what this is all meant to be about. There are good women out there. Let me just say that first. There's good women out there. There's good men out there. They're definitely not the majority. There's a very small percentage of people who are, especially when it comes to relationships, are really upstanding and, loyal and not shallow. And there's different shallowness. There's a male version of shallowness. There's a female version of shallowness. I guess I'm somewhat fit the male version of shallowness. But there are good people out there. They're just a very small percentage of the population who can look deeper than and who are willing to stand by somebody who maybe isn't, um, everyone's ideal partner. But yeah, I think people make a lot of generalizations, especially the red pill community makes a lot of generalizations that I think apply to a lot of stupid women, but don't apply to all women. And I think a lot of feminists make a lot of generalizations that apply to a lot of stupid men, but don't apply to all men, More of them are probably in that both men, the dumb men and the dumb women. There's a large category of those. There's not that many, I guess, maybe, I don't want to say dumb, but enlightened, There's not that many enlightened of either side. I won't put myself in the enlightened category either, so. But I'm not the red pill guy some of these guys are. Anyway, even though I think the red pill community is aware of certain things that a lot of us who are naive and ignorant for a long time couldn't admit to ourselves. But anyway, I think a lot of that low type of woman doesn't like the red pill community for calling them out on their BS, and that's the issue. Is it's like these red pill incels get a lot of flack for calling certain women, a percentage of the female population, out on their BS. And feminists get some crap for calling some of the low percentage men out on their, I don't want to say low percentage, but the lowest common denominator. I mean, anyway, the point of this video is not that. The point of this video is sort of, I guess as I was saying, I'm sort of documenting the tragedy of my life. I think this is one of the reasons why I'm so pessimistic. Maybe it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, my pessimism. But in my life, there was a time when I was optimistic. There was a time when I thought things would somehow work out for me. I think some part of your brain still desperately wants to believe that things are going to work out. Still wants to feel like somehow your story is going to turn around, But the older you get, the less it seems like that is realistic. You still have the same traits that made your life miserable, or I don't know if it's traits or circumstances. Anything could change, I suppose, and that is always the hope. And some part of your brain always wants to believe something's going to turn around for me. At some point, the universe will realize that I've been a good person on the whole. And, it's something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. It's going to turn it all around and give it some kind of a happy ending. And that, I think, it just comes from people watching too many movies, And too many movies, I guess, that are made in America. Hollywood. It's my, Hollywood, the Hollywood ending. We all think that Hollywood ending is coming because most of the movies we've seen are Hollywood endings. If we watch more foreign films, we'd know that that Hollywood ending is more rare than common. And I think that's why people avoid foreign films, because they just don't want to be depressed by the realities of life. Foreign films are not afraid to shy away from what reality really is. I think that's why my dad likes foreign films, I think, because they show a version of reality that's much closer to being true than what Hollywood movies give you. Maybe, I don't know, man, I wonder if we were all raised on something more like foreign films where, where things work out. Really, things in life, I think, work out less. When things work out in life, it's an anomaly, Happy endings are not common. And part of the reason for that is just because, the biggest reason for that is just because, especially as you get older, you're guaranteed to face more suffering than joy to some extent. Simply because the last half of life is rough. And I guess that's what this video is about, is, telling you people, as if I haven't told you enough how rough life is. I just want you to know that, it's like, there's some part of your brain that won't accept it, Some part of my brain that won't accept it. I keep thinking, some part of me still desperately believes that Hollywood ending's going to happen. Something's going to turn things around, One of these days I'll come on here and tell you that, I finally found a girl I loved, and I finally got a job that I felt like where I felt like I was doing work that I enjoyed, or that I was getting paid for it. You want to, or some kind of miraculous story. At this point, it'd be fairly miraculous for me to say those things, because I was watching today, like old people do. I was watching. Sorry for you people who are watching the show, but it's what old people do. I was watching CBS Sunday Morning, and they were featuring the Buena Vista Social Club, where these like old guys who used to play music in Cuba and released an album in the 90s and ended up, selling millions of records and touring the world and having one last hurrah in their lives, the biggest hurrah of their lives, really, because they'd been, somewhat successful as musicians, but never on the level that they were when they recorded this album in the 90s that blew up. And people love, why people love those stories, stuff like that. They didn't, apparently, from what I was reading, they didn't live very long to enjoy it, but at least they had one last, burst of excitement at the end of their lives. But the reason why people love these stories, because it almost never happens. Almost never happens, These stories are always super uplifting, because we all know what the regular story is. You get old and decrepit and lonely and you die. Always expect the most dour, doomy, gloomy content. That's what I promise to you. Doomy, gloomy content. Every video. Not every video. Sometimes I'm actually more upbeat, but this is not one of those videos. So, yeah, we like those stories. We like the stories of Diana Nyad swimming, what was it, to Cuba or something like that? I forget. Cuba to Florida, I think it was. We like the stories of the people who found recognition late in life. But the reason why they're stories is because we ignore all the rest of the stuff, the vast majority of the lives that end not with a bang, but with a whimper. And I'm watching my life end with a whimper. I am. And I guess I'll just tell you, some of the things you can expect. I don't know if this is a warning or not. Now, I look back on how I lived my life when I was young, and it all seems to me, even now, I have perfect understanding of why I live the way I live. I just want to be a good person in the end. I couldn't handle the messiness of life. I'm a perfectionist. Something about going through trauma makes you a perfectionist. I think when you go through that trauma, you feel unfairly targeted by the universe. And so some part of you has this expectation that somehow the universe is going to make it up to you. And I think we wait for a perfect scenario that'll bring us up and out of that pain. Something that'll sweep away all the bad. A big event, some kind of magic that'll happen. And that magic doesn't really happen. That's the lesson of life. If the magic happens, you got to make it happen. It doesn't happen to you. You have to be the originator of the magic. And the older you get, the less chance that you will make that magic. The odds against you increase and increase and increase because you run out of time, you run out of capacity. You get left behind by life. The older you get, life starts to leave you behind. You can try to insert yourself into it, but I guess the real thing is it's a lot of it is about youth. You're only young once, and you can't get it back. If you miss out, this is going to be painful for some people. I'm sorry for those people who are young right now and living a less than exciting life. I knew when I was young and living less than an exciting life that I could feel the pain of knowing that this was not what young, fun life was supposed to be. Generally, you see tons of advertisements and these days social media posts by people that advertises the young, fun life. Advertisements, television, movies. Now it's web videos, especially advertising. The few marketers are such D-bags. I swear to God, you got to make everyone feel like they're missing out on stuff. It's no wonder we have unrealistic expectations for youth. We see people partying it up on boats and gorgeous girls everywhere we look on mass media, and more gorgeous men. I'm trying to make this not entirely a male perspective. See people doing daring things, wild stories of people traveling, and everyone's, like I've said before, everyone's presenting the best of reel. You only see the best of. People aren't telling you about all the negatives. They only show you the positives. We have this idea like that's what youth should be, this big, fun, exciting adventure. And in some ways it is more fun and more exciting and with more opportunity involved though when you get older. There's no question about it. But what it's made out to be, the image of what it is was so far from the reality for me that I think you really do believe that the disappointment that comes with realizing that your life will never be that propaganda that you've been awash, your brain has just been totally awash within, just inundated, all that propaganda about the perfect life that you should be living, and all this idea, like this, another thing that people believe that you get inundated with is this idea like happy endings are real and never give up and things could still turn around for you no matter how old you are. Wishful thinking. So much. Hold on a second, I gotta blow my nose. Here's a real dose of life, boy. I'm gonna spare you watching me blow my nose, but that's what real life is. I could edit that out if I was not trying to be real here, but that's what it is. Blowing your nose in a handkerchief. I don't know. For me, that's what it is. It ain't pretty, but that's life. You know, um, you really some part of your brain always thinks somehow it's going to turn around. But I'm at the age where I just realize it's impossible. I will never have those things. I will never have those things I saw. When I was working at the co-op, I got infatuated with young girls all over again. Some part of me is like, I'm still young. I still want to believe I was young. I was in my early 40s. I don't look so old yet, but I looked, I think, even younger before I started working at the co-op, and age a lot quickly in your 40s. And I was so convinced by the mass media that someday things were going to turn around. And I still had it coming to me. Somehow I was going to, the glory was still within reach. That I actually believed that me, a guy in his early 40s, would have a shot with girls in their 20s, despite the fact that I was working in a grocery store and lived with my parents. That's how delusional I was. You know? And man, did it mess with my head. And now that I'm away from it, when I was there, it was like some part of me just desperately wanted to believe it was my last shot, that I hadn't lost the last chance to be young, or at least to experience something of what it was like to be young. But now that I've been away from it for 6 months or so, maybe that's more like 8 months. It's been a while. It's really, you realize how silly it all is. It's doomed. A guy my age should not be with girls younger than, let's say, 10 years younger than you. That's about the max that you should be stretching in. And where does that put me? 34. I mean, girls still look pretty good from 34 to even into their early 40s, But you're not going to be. It doesn't make sense. If you're wealthy and powerful, you've had good experiences in life. If you're a Casanova, one of these, then you can be an older guy like me and get girls. But you better have some status. You better have some riz, as the kids say. I still know. I know I'm getting old now because I'm starting to lose the thread on this slang. I saw this Saturday Night Live. I think the Saturday Night Live isn't even appealing to. It's like they're appealing to like people in their 30s. So I'm beyond that. But they're talking about mother and stealing nachos, and there was like 2 or 3 other references. I had to look it up. At least you have the Urban Dictionary now. I'm sure kids hate it now. The older people can now know what they're saying by looking it up in Urban Dictionary, because all this stuff is designed to be exclusionary. I said this in another video. It's slang designed to keep the old folks from knowing what's cool. It's an intentional divide to keep the old folks from having any kind of riz whatsoever. I see riz is probably 10 years old now. I'm sure I'm like an old person. I'm using old slang, but um, maybe not 10 years old. 5 years old. It's old. Um, but you don't want to be with young people. There was a girl I mentioned this on another comments in another video. I was attracted to this girl in my art group. I made a video about it, and then I ended up pulling the video because I didn't want her to see it. Now I don't care anymore. I was interested in her. For some reason, I could tell she kind of liked me. Of course, I said this about the cashier, who obviously, in the end, totally rejected me. So maybe, again, it's just wishful thinking. But, there were signs that at least suggested to me that she did like me. I could tell you the most obvious one where she jumped into my arms at one point. So that was a lot more evidence than I had with the other girl. But anyway, I realized that it didn't make any sense. I couldn't keep up with her. That's the reality. You get to be old, you just can't keep up with these kids anymore. And if I could, she wouldn't be interested once she knew who I really was. And do you really want that? Do you really want to be with a girl who has a misconception about you? No. You want to be with a girl who knows who you are and is okay with it. Because it's going to come out. You can't hide these things from people. And that was the delusion I was working with when I was attracted to these 20-something girls. Is that somehow they'd be okay with who I was when it really wasn't compatible. Or it really wasn't, what I should put it as, is it really wasn't the best thing for them. I was looking at it from a very selfish perspective. I wasn't looking at it from the reality of, how is someone like that going to benefit from a relationship with me? They really won't. That's why I've stopped this pursuit of young girls, because it's not in their best interest. It's probably not even in my best interest. I could probably get in a decent shape, but this girl in my art group, she likes to go to the snow. She's a great skier. Maybe I could have kept up with her in my prime. I used to be pretty quick on a snowboard. Maybe, probably not as fast as the skiers, but I could go fast enough that she wouldn't be waiting too long, There was a time when I was the first one down the hill, even, with my group. There were days where I was just feeling it, I think every snowboarder has those days. Maybe I wasn't trying to do anything too fancy, but I could bomb a hill in my day. But even in my best shape, now I could still go fast if I got back into shape. If I got back into shape, I could race down a hill pretty good. But do I want to? I don't really want to. For me, it's not about racing down the hill anymore. It's about relaxing and enjoying the view. When you're young, you want to go fast. So there's just the gap right there. This girl's gonna want to go all over the Northeast, spend a bunch of money on this stuff. You get old, you get lazy, you get tired. You've had a lot of adventure already. You don't need more adventure. You did a lot of those things when you were younger. I didn't have much adventure in the terms of relationships or love interest, but I did get out and do things. I did go out and see things, I probably didn't go to the hill half as much as some of these kids did, but I went enough. I don't know. I guess all I'm saying is you realize that energy-wise, you're a bad fit with these kids. Culture-wise, I'm a bad fit with 20-year-olds. Now, listening to music I could give less of a crap about. They're spending all this time watching people who are popular streamers online. I don't know. I watch my own old man streamers. Those interests are not going to meet up at any point. 28-year-old girl's not going to be watching Andy Edwards on YouTube. Sorry, Andy. Unless she has a thing for old guys. You know. So yeah, you realize that pining for a last gasp at youth, it's foolhardy. It's not what you should be doing. Every time has its season, and the time in your 40s is not meant to be running around after young girls. It's a time meant for being a parent in your 40s. And if you're not a parent, then you really got to figure out how you can fill the time in a way that's sort of, I suppose, mature for your age, or maybe not mature. For me, it's impossible to be mature for my age, pretty much, till I on my own 2 feet entirely. But it's pathetic. It's pathetic trying to recapture your youth when you're in your 40s. This is the bottom line. And you don't want to subject other people around you to that. And that's just the real hard part of it. You start realizing that the people you're hanging out with I went to my friend's 60th birthday party. And I don't know, I guess I always, on some level, when I went to his 60th birthday party, it was in California. Even though that's a big number, 60, you think, oh, well, we're not old the way older people are old. We're this generation of old people still is younger at heart than people used to be in the old-fashioned grandma and grandpa days. But then you get out there. I was at this party. Everybody's got gray hair and white hair, and a lot of people have had um, I don't know. They've lost people. They've had surgeries, or they're complaining about one physical ailment or another, and going to see the doctor, this and that. I was like, wow. You know, I mean, I'm not 60. I'm in my mid 40s, but these are my friends. I'm hanging out with a lot of people who are, it's not that unusual to have friends that are 15 years older than you. At least when you're in your 40s, I feel like people in their 40s have an easier time hanging out with people in their 60s than they do with people in their 30s. I think if you're in your 30s, it's a little easier to hang out with people in their 20s because you're still fairly young. Once you pass over to 40, you kind of get grouped into this 40 plus range, and you realize how bleak things look. I look at all the older people at this party and think, these people are going to be what they're going to be for the most part, and these people are all facing an uphill battle at this point. You're looking at your looks fade. You're looking at health issues. You're looking at a life that's mostly set in stone. There's things you can do to try to break out of where you're at, but it just becomes such an uphill battle. It's hard to battle against where you end up, and you realize, you just look around the people you're hanging out with, and you're like, none of us are young anymore. There was a period even it was like from working with these young people, they were coming out to trivia with me. I think I was able to delude myself into thinking, oh yeah, I'm still young, I'm still surrounded by young people, this is cool. Now they've all abandoned. The trivia has gone back to me and the older guys, and that's fine. I get along much better with them. That's really who I should be hanging out with. But I think I said almost the exact same thing in another video. It's just painful to realize that this is your group going forward, and nothing's going to come and change that. You can't redefine yourself anymore. I don't know. Some people would say this is just the lamenting of somebody who's given up on life. You're not wrong. But to guys like me in their 20s, I guess I'll say this, I was looking for the best I could get, and I didn't get anything. And I'm not trying to say that that's wrong. I'm not trying to say that, you shouldn't have high standards and that you shouldn't want your life to work out great. You shouldn't want to be able to achieve your dreams, and you shouldn't expect that somehow, some of the things that you dream of having are going to come to you. But I think the higher your standards are for the universe and the world, you have to be prepared to accept the fact that the universe doesn't care. It doesn't care about your story. It doesn't care about your happiness. And when you start to get old is when you really realize that. I always told myself when I was younger, oh, well, I was black-pilled, as the manosphere says, from a fairly early age. Probably about 29 is when I really gave up hope. And really, it was too soon, I'd say. But it wasn't too soon. Like, I may have given up hope at 29 and I still had opportunities. If I'd gotten healthy and I could have turned my life around, I was telling some of this in the comments in the last video. If I'd gotten a good job and stayed healthy, really worked out, you can look pretty good and you can be a catch in your 30s for a girl in her mid to late 20s, and you're doing all right, you know. But it's never going to be the fantasy dream you have of reality. Forget about Hollywood. Forget about magic. Forget about something that's going to pull you up from where you are and whisk you away into a world of fantasy and perfection where everything if you want to make things work when you're in your 20s, I'm sorry to break this to you. It's going to be messy. The world is messy. And if you're going to find joy, it's going to be finding joy within that mess. I've been watching Moonstruck since I was a little kid, and they have that line about how we're meant to screw up and make bad choices, and that's what we're here for. And I hate that. I always hated that line. I think I hated it for a long time, but it's true. It's an ugly truth. If you want to have a good time when you're young, you got to accept the messiness of it all. You have to accept that there's just going to be parts of it that aren't going to get anywhere near your ideal. And if you shun the things that are messy, and if you try to be spotless and clean like I was, you try to always make the right ethical decision, you live life by, high principles of, you hold yourself and everything else in the world to a high expectation, well, the chances that those expectations are ever going to be met are slim to none. So if you want to have any fun, you've got to lighten up. I hate saying this, even now I struggle against this advice. I so believed that I could have it all, that somehow, the ugliness of the early part of my life was going to be made up to me. That I would be rewarded for doing the right thing. You're not going to be rewarded for doing the right thing. You're not going to be rewarded for being principled. And if you wait for perfection, you might save yourself some trouble. I mean, certainly, like I say, when things get messy, they're messy. You're going to have to deal with some mess. But in the mess will come adventure, excitement. I can't even say it's going to be out and out good. Because with the mess comes also, danger and strife and it can throw your life off in a bad way. I mean, no one's guaranteed anything. I guess if you want excitement, you're sort of taking a risk, and that risk could ruin you. I'm not trying to say that you should take the risk either, because within the mess of not living up to high standards and high principles comes the real possibility that the risks that you fear are going to be as bad as you fear they'll be, and then things could go straight to hell for you for taking those risks. But there's a chance that it'll work out. Example. You could date a girl who is trouble. You might have an inkling that, like, for example, there was a girl who was interested in me who was wanted me to do nitrous balloons, and I judged her for that. I was sitting on the couch with her. She gave me a nitrous balloon, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I didn't really judge her for it outwardly, but my behavior was such that she saw me reject the nitrous balloon, and she said, this guy's uptight. And, in my mind, I'm like, oh, no, nitrous, I've heard it's hippie crack and kills brain cells, and this is unregulated. This is not a clean source of nitrous. I was trying to be perfectionist about it. And in that moment, I didn't understand how my refusal of the nitrous balloon said to her, hey, this guy can't relax and have a good time and lighten up. She wanted to party with me. And I had known also she was on coke. So it's like, yeah, that's dangerous, This girl I knew was using cocaine, and if I was going to get involved in her world, there's a chance that it was going to come with offers of cocaine and offers of, more nitrous balloons and all kinds of things. But she was being young. She was making stupid decisions. I promised my father I would never do cocaine, so I don't think I ever would have done the cocaine. But the whole point I'm making is, I said no to a potentially exciting experience. Had I done the nitrous, she didn't actually offer me any cocaine, but knowing that she had done it, it was going to be a thing at some point. Maybe she would have been fine with me not doing it. I don't know. But all I'm saying is that I said no to that. It's that messy excitement. There was an opportunity there for messy excitement, and I judged her for doing things that I didn't want to get involved in. Now, some people might say I made the right decision. Some people would say you don't want to get involved with somebody who's doing those things. But in making that decision, I shut off a world. I decided, you know, there would have been, going down that path, there would have been good things and bad things from it. You know, all likelihood, if I'd done the nitrous, we would have been more comfortable. Maybe we would have started smooching on the couch instead of it being kind of awkward instead. Maybe I would have done coke with her and her friends. Wouldn't have been good for my heart. Maybe I would have died 5 years sooner. Maybe, I would have been arrested on possession or something. Who the hell knows? Maybe we would have had a child and she would have been irresponsible with the child and the child would end up messed up. Or maybe that wouldn't happen. Maybe I'm just going to you don't really know. But I turned off a lot of experience by saying no to that, by having high standards, by thinking, well, this girl can't be right. Even though she was gorgeous. One of the most beautiful women that ever showed any interest in me. And she was 4 years older than me, so I thought, oh, well, I wanted a girl closer to my age. I didn't know. It just wasn't perfect, but by rejecting that lack of perfection, I cut myself off from a youthful experience that a lot of guys would have gone for. And so I'm just putting that out as an example. There were other scenarios like that. For one reason or another, the situation just didn't feel perfect. Other girls who gave me opportunities, and there was just something about them that wasn't quite right. Maybe a girl was pretty, but she wasn't gorgeous, and I felt like she wore too much makeup, and I felt like she was trying to get physical too fast. All these things, I wanted it just perfect, and I said no to the usual experiences of youthful indiscretion, youthful irresponsibility. And what do you get? You end up with a life that's suited for somebody who is a churchgoer. And really, if I had been a churchgoer, maybe it would have been a different thing. Maybe I would have met a nice church girl. But even then, let's say I met a nice church girl, you're cutting off certain experiences from your life that way too. She might have been closer to what I was hoping for, but I didn't really want that girl either because she would be not as intelligent. I'm sorry, but usually people that believe in the church, it shows a certain kind of naivete, a lack of critical thinking. When you look at the world, you don't see miracles happening. Or if you do, you're probably imagining them. You're wishful thinking. Somebody who's looking at the world from a real objectivist point of view and seeing how things evolve, it's hard to square, our experiences with what we read in the Bible of guys living to be 350 years old and, actual miracles being performed. And, some people would say, well, you can't take the Bible too literally. But I think that's one of the reasons why religious people don't tend to be as intelligent, is because they do take the Bible literally. And there's an argument to be made for an intelligent religious person, but I'd say they're the smaller percentage of true believers out there. But I don't know. Anyway, I didn't look for them. I didn't go to church either. You know, I just said no to a lot of experience. I guess that's the bottom line of this. I always end up getting to the idea of the video like about 40 minutes in, but um, now I'm losing it again. It's kind of like that Jim Carrey movie, Yes Man. You know, that movie sums it up better than I am right now. You sort of say no to life, and you live with the consequences. And saying yes is a messy experience. And it's there's no guarantee that saying yes is going to end up with a good outcome. It won't, but it will. But saying yes to the risks in life, really, this is really mostly about taking risks. If you're willing to take risks in life, it's going to be more exciting. You know, you get excitement. You don't necessarily get happiness. You don't necessarily even get fulfillment because things can still go wrong. Risks are risks for a reason. Everything has a downside, but but you pretty much guarantee yourself a boring life if you don't take some risks. And I guess that's all I'm trying to tell you. You know, I could still take risks today, but the payoff is dramatically reduced. When you take risks when you're young, the payoff could go in 1,000 different ways, and it could be ways that are bad. You know, some people take those risks and they end up addicted. People take those risks and they end up getting murdered, crimes of passion, or murdering and crimes of passion. People take those risks and they go to jail, or um, you know, tragedy befalls them based on less than perfect scruples. Sometimes it comes back to bite you, but but you're guaranteed action. You know, when you take the risk, some kind of action is going to happen. And when you're young, if you don't have a lot of action, you know, when you get to be my age and you haven't had a lot of action, and I'm not just talking just the like getting some action, but I mean like all kinds of different action. When you cut off all that different action, you're gonna some part of you is gonna wonder what would it have been like if I'd gone that other way. If I'd thrown caution to the wind a little bit more, if I'd experimented a little bit more. Certainly, I'd have a bigger social network. Certainly, there's a chance I'd be a father. Um, I'd have more stories to tell. You know, nobody wants to hear my story is boring. That's part of the reason why I have so few viewers on this channel. If I took the big risks, I'd be telling you about stories that would really people would care about. And for the most part, people don't really care about my stories. I pontificate, I theorize, I imagine, imagine what the world is really like, but I don't really know that well because I've stayed away from the messy parts of it. I live in a world where I think that a lot of people like me are like this, where we'd rather we'd rather interact with a fantasy version of the world that exists in our own head than the real thing, because the real thing is so messy and so lacking in so many ways. And there's good things to be had from it, but there's also bad with that good. You have to take them both. You can't just wait for the good. You know, you've got to take the bad with the good, and if you don't, then you're getting mostly nothing. It all gets flattened out. I don't know. At the very least, I'm due to experience some real bad, because that's the thing is that I've still got all this same stuff that happens to the people that took the risk is going to happen to me. I still got financial issues to worry about. I still got aging to worry about. I've still got losing people to worry about, losing family members, losing friends, feeling alienated from young people. I can't tell you how alienated I feel from Gen Z and especially Gen Alpha. These people who, I don't know. I guess I live online in some ways, but they really live online and they're obsessed with it. You know, I'm still stuck in these old modes. and I spend an awful lot of time on YouTube. But most of these young people aren't spending time on YouTube. They're on Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat and all this stuff. I don't mess with that. Barely even on Facebook, even though that is meant for the old people. I just can't relate. The world's passed me by. It's left me behind. And I'm preparing to watch what was already a limited amount of excitement continue to dwindle. And there's very little out there in the world that I can relate to other people on that makes me excited. I can't get excited about modern music for the most part, except for some reason, I don't know why I like Magdalena Bay. That's the one band that has poked through, and I don't even know why. I think I'm just desperate to attach myself to anything new that I might particularly like that gives me even a remote amount of excitement. But you know, new movies, most new music. Even if there were other bands like Magdalena Bay that blew up that I could relate to, I'd still feel a world apart from them. I like the way I feel a world apart from Magdalena Bay. The people in Magdalena Bay, they might want my money as a fan. They probably don't want my attention. I'm just some weird, creepy guy who likes them for some strange reason. They gotta be like, I don't know. Matt Lewin and I, we could have a talk. Anyway, enough Magdalena Bay talk. I'd like to talk with Matt Lewin about music. He seems like I bet you he's a class dude, really smart kid. Anyway, I'm sure Mika would want to have nothing to do with me whatsoever. But enough about that. Let me just finish up by saying that there's a lot to not like coming forward, and it's like I don't know if I'm ready to deal with this slow decline. I could try to make the most of my waning years here, but if I got back into shape again and got out there into the world, you know what it's going to mean? A lot of women around my age thinking, oh yeah, this guy has I'm interested in this guy now. If I ever got my stuff together, then it'd be like, oh yeah, have plenty of chances to date women in their 40s. I'm sorry. I don't want it. I don't want to date the younger girls. I don't want to date the girls my own age either. I don't want to date older women at all. I just feel like there's nothing left to shoot for. You start to feel like there's nothing left to shoot for, and you're sort of into this settle into your irrelevancy mode, and it's just hard, especially when you haven't had any excitement in life and you see it all just fading more and more every year. The excitement, even the potential for excitement fades, and it's already faded to a near vanishing point. But even it starts to become not just, oh, now there's nothing to get excited about. Now it's like, oh, now there's things to actually be worried about. Now there's things to actually be sad about. I guess I'd cry about it if I wasn't already so used to it. I'm kind of numb, but some part of me wants to cry. I can feel there's a part inside of me that wants to cry at all the things I missed, but I just can't bring myself to it. It's almost too pathetic for me to go about doing that, and so I just sort of face the day numb every day, letting it pass. All right, well, that's about as dark as I'm going to let this get. So, yeah, I guess the bottom line is, be prepared to take risks if you want to have any kind of excitement when you're young. Otherwise, you're going to be like me, old and I'm not trying to say I'm not trying to tell you should take the risks. I'm just trying to give you an idea. I made a trade-off, and in my trade-off, I finished in my comfort zone and safe in my comfort zone. I'm safer, and I'm in my comfort zone. Maybe I'm not so safe economically. I did take some risks on that front, and now I'm really in trouble on that front. So I didn't get the excitement, and I got all the risk of not. I got all the risk of picking a questionable career path of music. So if you're going to take risks anywhere, don't make it with your career, unless I don't know. I don't even want to say that because I hate to discourage people from doing great things in music. It's the wonderful couple from Magdalena Bay never took a risk that I'd never have their great music to listen to. But just know that Don't be too much of a perfectionist, I suppose, unless you're prepared to accept what I'm accepting, which is a total lack of excitement. I might be comfortable and safe for now, but I don't know if it's worth it. You know, for all the things I missed out on, it's hard. It just gets harder the older you get.